Insurance company denied me, so I got everyone I know to cancel and literally bankrupt them. I have a story that started before the COVID pandemic and just concluded a while back. English is my third language, so forgive any errors I may make and my use of words. I'm a typical, simple guy who just likes relaxing and was born with the proverbial silver spoon in my mouth. I'm the black sheep of my family and a middle child, to boot, double whammy, but at least I have little brains and some luck, which I kind of use on a day-to-day basis. Due to my parents' connections, I managed to get into lucrative schools in my country, did military service and was promoted upward to captain, and later on was shipped off to college out of country. I've never been too close with many people apart from my circle of friends, and I prefer it that way. After my college, I was employed in government, and yes, you guessed it, family connections. And after a few years, I was able to use my name to get ahead and meet people who helped me set up several businesses in my area, in a coastal city, where this story takes place. The money I used was generally allowances, small inheritances from my late grandma, some investments, a fund that was started when I was a baby, and money gifted to me by family, basically in an attempt to not leave me broke enough to embarrass them, even though I'm a simple, low-maintenance fellow. My businesses are booming since the coastal area we live in attracts a lot of tourists, local and international, and of course some locals who wish to mingle with the tourists to get green cards, pen pals, spouses and such. Typical coastal city, I guess. So, on to the incident. As a proprietor of my business, I have most, if not all of my staff on salary, since it's the best way for them to gain benefits, and it's easier for me as a business owner tax-wise. Tipping is more of a gift, typically, since we don't have a tipping culture. And I have my staff on comprehensive medical insurance, which has additional dental and optical, on top of the national governmental healthcare medical scheme. Our government hospitals provide all services free, but wait times for elective surgeries are exhausting. We also have a mandatory legal requirement to provide employees with a retirement benefit savings, a minimum of 21 working days leave, I give 30, and my business offers paid overtime, unhindered medical leave for surgery and serious conditions, which can be extended, as well as allowances to seek treatment such as chemo or dialysis. One of my female employees, an older lady who's brilliant and has moved up the ranks to manager and was adored by all, was booked for a hysterectomy since, as she told me, she was at risk of cervical cancer as her mother had passed from it a few years back, and since she's already had 4 kids, it was the logical step. She did her due diligence and found a private hospital, which was in our system, where she could have the procedure done. On the planned date, she applied for leave days, which we obviously rejected since this fell under the scope of medical leave. I rejected her request for normal leave days since I want her to utilize the unhindered medical leave days, since I didn't know for how long recovery would be, and I wanted her to keep earning her salary even as she rested. She went on to have the procedure successfully and had a quick recovery time. The bill was to be catered for by the company insurance, and we made sure to get all of the necessary pre-authorizations. A few months later, she came to work looking distraught, and in all honesty, I thought that she had been told that she'd gotten cancer since she'd asked for a day off to go for review and tests. But what happened was much worse. She had been given a bill by the hospital since the insurance had refused to pay for it, citing that it wasn't in the scope of cover. We were livid since we'd made sure everything was in frickin' order. I sent my accounts manager to go and have a talk with the insurance people as we tried to calm her down. The manager came back super angry and told me that basically after showing them the evidence, the insurance people had just told him to buzz off. I decided to personally go to visit that office and get a clear understanding of what was happening. They kept me waiting for an hour, and even after that had the audacity to inform me the director from the head office, who was in the area, had declined to meet me because he was quote-unquote busy. I was absolutely livid, so I decided to go to their head office in the capital city, a 2-hour flight away. The head office was no help and informed me they'd revised their policy and that it wasn't covered. I asked when the policy was revised, and they informed me a month prior. I informed them the surgery was done 5 months prior and we had all the documentation. They claimed that it was 12 months retrospective. I inquired why I wasn't informed of it since this was big news and I've held policies with them, and they told me that they'd informed their large clients and would inform the other clients when their insurances were due for renewal. I demanded to speak to their boss, company vice president, since the CEO wasn't around, and they boldly told me he had no time for me, and frankly that, in verbatim, "We're a large company and have no time to argue semantics with low-end clients. If you don't like it, you can frankly leave and find a new insurance company." So, here begins my revenge. If I was angry before, now I was full-blown mad. I was livid and filled with rage. In all my years, I may have experienced some disrespect, and I accepted it to not make problems, but this time it went too far. I decided in the heat of the moment to switch everything and be done with them. I flew back home and just plain went to the hospital and settled the bill in full, and took the receipt to my employee, who initially insisted that she'd do anything to pay me back, but I refused since it was in no way her fault, and I'll be darned if she pays for something that was way out of her control. I had a few days to cool down and talked with my directors. The words were still etched in my mind. I asked how long it would take us to switch to another insurance. They went ahead and checked out a few large rivals of the insurance that we had and discovered that if we switched, it would take 6 months for the new insurance to provide full coverage. The firm we picked, who I'll call New Insurance, offered us a way better deal to the one we had, and not only comprehensive cover, dental and optical, they also included mental health cover, physiotherapy and occupational therapy cover, rehabilitative services, mobility device acquisition like prosthetics and wheelchairs for some of the disabled employees, smart cards for direct payment on outpatient visits, kind of like a debit card, and a dedicated team of relationship managers, death and funeral benefits and an expanded coverage area, plus up to 6 dependents plus spouse cover. It would cost me a little more, but I didn't really care. The people who dealt with us from our previous insurance, who I'll call Old Insurance, seemed unfazed that I was pulling my company from them since they thought it was just a small business. They looked puzzled when I came in with several people and a few boxes of documents. What they failed to realize was that apart from that one business, which is a restaurant, I have 3 popular bars, a cab company, a hotel resort, cleaning service chain, a building and residential guard service, and several rental buildings in the town and around the country. Their shock was compounded when they were informed by my lawyer just who I was, and the shock, confusion, awe, and panic when they heard my family name was an extremely satisfying sight. Cue the pleading and attempted negotiations and apologies. It was so big that the news reached their head office, who sent not only their director, the one who was apparently too big to see me at first, but also their chief legal officer, chief financial officer, and president of the company. I somehow also earned a personalized call from the CEO who was abroad. No amount of sweet-talking was changing my mind, and by the end of 6 weeks we'd completely removed ourselves from the old insurance. It was now a waiting game to the beginning of the new insurance cover, and we really hoped that no one would become unwell by that time, but we were ready just in case. In that waiting time and after the new insurance commenced, I talked to my friends and my family on one of my holiday visits. My older brother's kids adore me, and my family kind of realized they were buttholes to me and are trying to re-enter my life. And I thought that was that. The aftermath of that conversation? My friends and family took my words and also pulled their businesses from the insurance to other insurances. The company took such a huge hit, and when COVID came around and was a big deal, they were barely floating. They went into receivership soon after, and were acquired by the insurance I'd moved to, who happened to be their greatest rivals. The directors and CEO were given their golden parachute and resigned, and most of their employees were luckily retained, apart from the senior executives, including the ones who told my manager to buzz off. In a cruel twist of irony, the building they were operating on in our town was sold, and if you guessed I purchased it, you would be absolutely correct. I decided to remodel the inside and turn it into a business rental space. All in all, it was a bit of a sweet payback, and wherever they are, I hope those disrespectful guys learned that everyone is human and they are not above anyone. And remember that karma is a cold and heartless witch. Well, I'm glad that the insurance got shafted after they decided to treat so many people so badly. Especially after making the policy applicable for 12 months in the past, and only informing their bigger, richer class of clientele. That feels like it should be illegal. I don't think many other forms of business could be so cocksure of getting away with changing a contract retroactively. Anywho, I don't love that everything in your life seems to have been handed to you from birth, but you seem to acknowledge it and treat your employees right, which is a damn sight better than many of those who come from the same background and claim to be self-made men. So you're alright, Mr. or Mrs. Author. Keep looking after those people around you the way you've been doing, and you might be a net positive in the world, especially if you keep shutting down bad faith insurance companies like this. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked below. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my housemate his girlfriend can't stay anymore? I share an apartment with a friend I've known for years. We're both 24-year-old guys. We've had this place for over a year and haven't had any real issues. We get along well and do heaps together. He works full-time. I'm a university student and we split all bills, food and rent down the middle. We hate the idea of share houses and just want it to feel like a home. A few months ago, he started seeing a girl who we'll call Tina, who spends every day and night at our place. Tina is also a university student and hates her studio apartment. Until recently, I've had no issue with Tina being here and have never asked her to pay for anything. She eats all meals at our place and takes food to uni if she needs. The way I see it, housemate and I just buy a bit more food and it doesn't really matter. The other week I got home from uni, went up to the kitchen to make a coffee. I had an assignment I needed to work on, so I wanted to pick me up. And when I opened the fridge, I noticed some Red Bulls. I just assumed my housemate had gotten them for us, so I grabbed one and drank it. The next morning at breakfast, Tina opened the fridge and then got super angry that one of her Red Bulls was missing. I said it was me and I thought my housemate had gotten them. She started telling me how she bought them for herself and I should have asked and that I needed to apologize for taking it. I was going to tell Tina that it's my fridge and I shouldn't have to ask if I can have stuff in it, but I didn't want to start a conflict, so I just apologized. She demanded I buy her a replacement. Since then, she started labeling any food or drinks she brings for herself and makes a point of saying it's hers. After all of this, I've said to my housemate that I don't want her staying at our place unless she's going to start paying rent, paying for bills and pitching in to pay for food. I don't want to pay for her anymore just so that she can attack me for taking a drink from my own fridge. Am I the jerk? Okay, just an update to address some of the common responses I've been reading. I avoided saying anything at the time because my housemate and I are close to brothers, and I don't want to fight like this to make him have to pick. Honestly, I know he'd dump her butt and stick with me. He's a great guy, and I in no way think he's tried to take advantage. When I've had girlfriends stay or we've had mates over, we've just kept 50-50 as always. Sometimes the other people we invite buy us food or pitch in as thanks, but we never expect it. He and I act more as a family in a house rather than housemates, which is why it's never been an issue before. Tina is very manipulative. As a side story, housemate and I always do a movie night once a week. It's our tradition and we loved it. Tina has said she wants to join us, and then every time, around 30 minutes in, she'll whisper something to him or act in a certain way and draw him away to the bedroom. Honestly, it's annoyed me a tad, as she's clearly just trying to assert some dominance there. But I also joke with my housemate about it and how he seems unable to think with his bigger head when the little one is active. I've laughed at the few comments calling me a pushover, and I can see how it looks that way. I'm normally the first to stand up and react to something and hate people being rude. In this situation, it wasn't an issue until the Red Bull fridge incident, and my desire not to cause an issue was less about her and more about not wanting conflict with the housemate. Since I talked to him about her needing to pay or leave, she spent more time at her own place, but now just comes around and has the ability to kill the mood in any room. I want them to separate. I think he can't see this lasting either, but she's hot and he thinks with the wrong head. Like, a lot. Hey, well, when you're in your 20s and have a hot partner, you'll put up with a lot of crap like that for a while. I think a lot of us have had that partner who was way out of our league physically, but came with some other caveat. It sounds like you and your housemate have a pretty sweet bromance going, and it's good of you to do everything in your power to preserve that, despite the somewhat irritating presence of Madame Tina. I can't help but think when the breakup comes, it's probably going to be an epic and destructive showdown. Someone who reacts the same way she did about the Red Bull after months of freebooting probably isn't going to be much good in a rational discussion of differences and wishing each other well in the future. Hopefully, once she's done screaming, bombarding him with messages, and cutting up his clothes, you can be there with a cold beer to commiserate with him and have a decent movie night. Am I the jerk for being the reason my friend's daughter had to go to the hospital? Okay, I know the title sounds horrible, but I don't know how else to put that. I'm not a very busy person. I was weeks out of starting college and didn't have a job, so not much to do. A few weeks ago, my friend Alice came to my door with her daughter, Millie, and told me that she really needs me. Apparently, she had an emergency to attend to and needed an urgent sitter. She didn't really ask and just gave me the kid and a bag of toys and books and told me she'd be back in a few hours. I have no problem with this. Millie is a very sweet kid, and she knows me well enough to be comfortable around me. Still, it was a bit unexpected, but I was going out to the cinema, so I thought I'd take her with me, and we'd walk around a bit and watch something. Everything went smoothly, and we watched a movie together. Millie seemed happy, and I was enjoying my time as well. Then we went to the park, and I thought it would be nice to get us some ice cream. We both had vanilla swirls, and she seemed to enjoy it for a bit, but as soon as we got home, she started throwing up and developed what seemed to be a rash. I thought maybe she got a bug or something and called her mum, but when she didn't pick up, I took her to the hospital. Apparently, Millie has a mild allergy to dairy. Alice didn't tell me about this. I've never seen Alice give her dairy, but I thought it was a dietary choice, and to be honest, I just didn't think that much about it. I never knew this explicitly. She was safe and nothing bad was going to happen to her, but she was obviously very uncomfortable until the antihistamines kicked in. I kept calling Alice and she only picked up a few hours later, and as soon as I told her we were at the hospital, she got furious. When she came in, she yelled at me, telling me I was trying to kill her baby because I'd had to take care of her on such short notice, and that I was an idiot for not knowing her child would react like this to ice cream. I apologized many times and sent them cards and a present for Millie, but apparently she's been telling our group of friends that I tried to hurt Millie and I shouldn't be trusted around children. Some of our friends berated me for my lack of attention and told me I'd have to carry the responsibility if anything worse had happened to the girl. I tried to explain that I didn't know and nothing worse was going to happen, and I did my best to help her, but it still became a divisive event. Am I the jerk? Is it really all my fault? I really want what's best for Millie, and I'd never do anything to hurt her. Nope, not the jerk. Sounds like you only had the barest couple of hints that she might have been allergic, and any reasonable person would know that this was clearly a mistake. I understand that our little baby's lives are everything, and maybe we could even have understood Alice initially being furious, as long as she came around eventually, but apparently she's completely deluded herself that you were genuinely attempting to end her daughter's life in the least efficient and most traceable way ever. Not that I want to go too deep down this rabbit hole, but if I were going to get something like staged infanticide done, getting ice cream for a mild allergic reaction and then taking my target to the hospital after ringing the target's emergency contact doesn't seem like the way to get it done, to be honest. And she's telling your friends that you tried to unalive the kid? Methinks someone feels bad about not answering her phone or giving relevant information and is projecting. Methinks the jerk doth protest too much. Not cool after the favor she forced you to do for her. My parents never told me about my lactose intolerance. Basically, as the title says, my parents just never decided to inform me that I was lactose intolerant. As a child, I never liked milk, and cheese and yogurt were always iffy. The pediatrician was always extremely concerned about my calcium intake because I was borderline underweight and kind of brittle. My mum and grandma always fudged the truth with our pediatricians as they were very clearly obsessed with the image of being perfect parents. So as I get older, I started noticing that every time I drank chocolate milk, I got horrible heartburn that wouldn't go away with any form of heartburn medicine. It was a running joke that in my family that I have mutant medicine-resistant heartburn. Now, in my family, you don't go to the doctor unless something is broken or you're dying. Anything else is seen as weakness or an annoyance, so nothing is done about my mutant heartburn. Eventually, my mum gets annoyed by me constantly complaining about heartburn and gets me Lactaid while dropping, "Oh yeah, you had to be on soy formula because you weren't gaining weight the first 2 months of your life on normal formula, and CPS was almost called." Oh, cool. Cool. Love that. And I'm 21, so it's not much of a case of neglect anymore as much as it is an annoyance. Wow. Well, it sounds like they're not great parents, and therefore jerks in regards to their family members' health at the very least. I'll admit that I can sometimes display the same attitude as your folks with regards to taking myself to the hospital. Like, I'll wait months in pain hoping it goes away if it isn't actively crippling me. But if someone around me or my kid were in pain, boy, we are flying to the doctor if you have so much as an odd-sounding cough. I can't get being that careless about your loved ones' lives. And I definitely don't understand the idea of needing other people to think you're medically pure. Do you think your peers are waiting for a sign of weakness to pounce or something? When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories. Or if you want to check out some great music, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, give Am I the Genius a shot. Everything linked in the description.